Hello, everyone. This is Patricia with Mental Health Matters, and tonight we're going to be talking about alcoholism again, only this time about men. If you missed last week's video, it was on females and alcoholism, and there's so much information that I want to get right to it. So don't forget, if you have missed any of my previous videos, I am here on Instagram as well as YouTube. So you can catch me there with A Slice of Peace with Patricia. All right, let's jump into alcoholism and men. That expression, men and women are not created equal, could not be further from the truth, because men are different. They have twice as much an opportunity to develop this deadly disease, alcoholism, as women do. That is pretty well stated in all of our literature. And the reasons are twofold. The first is that because of body composition, they're bigger, and therefore when the alcohol hits the bloodstream, it has further to go before it really has an impact on their thinking in the brain. So they can drink more than women. But we also have learned recently through research that was conducted by the Biological Psychiatry Institute. They studied the difference between men and women's brains, and they have found that men have a larger part of the brain. It's called the ventral, I want to get this right, the ventral striatum, which sends out all of these wonderful pleasure feelings, the reinforcement and so forth of the feel-good feelings, which are transferred through dopamine in the brain. And that seems to be larger in their brain than it is in women. So when they have a drink or two, they feel a lot better immediately, much more so than women. So this is pretty startling, this kind of research, because it really is saying that men have a different makeup chemistry in the brain, as well as their body size and their composition. So unfortunately, they do have a much higher risk for alcoholism. All right, so now that we know that, what are some of the risk factors? Well, we also know that men have a long-term effect for risks in alcoholism is greater than it is for women. So the list goes a little bit like this. Not only do men feel more depression, because after all, alcohol is a depressant. It's going to bring people down rather than boost them, which is what most people kind of think about. So it affects their emotional well-being. They get more irritable, they get more angry, they're short-tempered, especially if they're experiencing hangovers and the day after kind of situation. So we know that it's difficult for them to function when they've had a really bad night of this disease. We also know that they take more risky behaviors. They'll get behind the wheel more often and drive while under the influence. They will have unsafe or unprotected sex more often. And because it is a depressant, there are more thoughts about taking one's own life with men than it is with women. From a biological perspective, the body does respond in a very negative way. There is an increase in the risk of cancer, not only in the throat and the mouth, but throughout the body. We know that there is an increase in heart disease and hypertension, strokes. We also know that the liver is definitely affected by an increase in alcohol, and over a long period of time, people develop cirrhosis of the liver. We also know that it affects the gastrointestinal system. So people not only feel a stomach upset, but it creates over a long period of time pancreatitis. So we also know that there are heart problems. We know that the brain is affected by long-term use and can create dementia and certainly memory loss. So having said all of that, there's an awful lot of long-term risks involved with this deadly disease called alcoholism. All right, so we know that also alcohol will contribute to 88,000 Americans a year. So it's a pretty deadly disease. And hopefully, the more I can get the word out about information and resources and education, I hope that more Americans will listen and take the necessary steps to get into recovery. All right, so we know now a couple of points. Men are twice as likely to get alcoholism. It is biological, it is genetic, it is passed down from generation to generation. It is also environmental. When a young boy sees his dad drinking every night for years at a time, he assumes it's okay, and so there is that influence naturally in the family system. We have looked at the year 2020, and we all know how stressful it's been. It's been particularly stressful on families and especially men. Men see themselves as the provider, and many people have lost their jobs, they've lost income, they've had to draw on unemployment benefits. They worry about their children and their marriages and their homes, their jobs, their own well-being. So there's been an awful lot of more heavy drinking during this past year. Isolation away from support systems has all contributed to what we're seeing now. So men have a tough time of it, there's no doubt. They have a very hard time expressing sometimes their feelings about their anxiety, what they worry about, what they're afraid of. They also have a very difficult time asking for help. This is what I see over and over again in our hospital. Men have a very hard time saying, I can't do this anymore on my own, and I need to reach out for help. So, if you know anyone who is suffering, please share this video with them to have a discussion about their drinking patterns. See how often they are binge drinking, which means that within a 8-hour period or so, or a 4-hour period, they're having 8 drinks. That's called a binge. How often are they intoxicated? How often are they driving under the influence and displaying very risky behavior? How often do they have hangovers? And when they attempt to stop, they go through very terrible withdrawals, which I do not recommend for anyone. Why people seek out their physician and get the assessments done on their own alcohol drinking is because they know that it's very dangerous to automatically just stop drinking without some medical or treatment available, because the heart and the liver and the body and the brain go through so much. And I highly don't recommend that anyone try to go cold turkey on their own. So first, I'm going to ask you to seek your physician's guidance and see what he suggests. Perhaps just going through a short withdrawal and detox program will be enough, 4 or 5 days, or perhaps he may recommend treatment, which will last, up to 30 days. I'm going to come back and give you a whole list of resources, how you can make this assessment for yourself, whether you need treatment, whether you need to get support from the 12-step programs like AA or NA, and I'll give you all of that in my next video. But for right now, I just want you to be aware that this is a deadly disease. It's terminal. There's no cure. It is progressive, which means it's going to get worse over time. And by staying in denial, you're making it so much worse. Denial is simply stating things like, I don't have a problem. It's all about, the other guy. Let's minimize, I don't drink that much. Really, I don't. And denial can take many, many forms. And after a while, like I say, they get angry and very defensive. So don't let denial get in the way of treatment and recovery. All right, I will come back real soon with all of my resources and hopefully guide you into some treatment if that is really what's required. I hope this has been helpful. Please don't forget to leave me any questions or comments that you may have down below. This is Patricia. We're talking about alcoholism, which is the #1 addiction in America. And so I feel very called to educate and inform and reach out to as many of you as I can. I have seen both sides, recovery and relapse, and how deadly this disease can be. So please share this video with anyone that you know may be suffering from this disease. Pass it on, talk about it, have discussions within your family, your friends, your neighborhood, and the world at large if needed. Alrighty, this is Patricia with Mental Health Matters. I hope this has been helpful. I send you lots of love and light, and I hope that you'll keep watching. Thank you so much for following me on Instagram. I appreciate all your support, and I hope that this has been useful. Alrighty, stay safe out there. I'll see you in a couple of days. Patricia with Mental Health Matters. Take good care. Bye, everyone.